In this video I rushed to Yorkshire to try and see a mega rare American bird that's not been seen in the UK for 10 years, and I also go down the coast to try and find a rare mutation of a rare American duck. Welcome back folks, this video starts with me doing a mad rush to West Yorkshire suburbia. Hey folks, this is pretty exciting stuff. I've rushed out today because there's a mega, like a real mega, a young Scarlet Tanager, which is an American songbird. It's turned up in West Yorkshire, so I've driven about 2 hours. God, I hope it's still here. Stick with me, see if we can find it. This is amazing. I walked down the lane and met another birder. I've just bumped into another birder who said it hasn't shown in about 40 minutes. But he seemed pretty confident it might show again, so I can see some other birders in front of me. As I came down the hill, I saw a couple of people against the side. But as I passed them and went round the corner, it was apparent that this bird had brought a lot of attention. There were an awful lot of birders present, there were a few familiar faces, and I took my place in the crowd, facing some very well maintained front gardens. Apparently 3/4 of an hour previously, the Scarlet Tanager had showed well in a silver birch tree not far away from us, so my confidence was fairly high. Myself and the other birders picking out any movement in the trees, mainly consisting of magpies and goldfinch. And as the morning wore on, more birders showed up. Sooner or later somebody's got to spot this bird. There were a few small birds in the trees moving in and out like blue tits, and a few coal tits too. We even had a visit from a local great spotted woodpecker that landed in a tree on the end of the road. This at least kept some of the patient birders well entertained. After about 2 hours of waiting, a few people spotted the tanager very briefly. It popped up distantly on a house roof for only a couple of seconds. 3 people seemed to see it, but no one got a photograph. Although a little frustrating, at least it showed us that the bird was still here and reasonably active. So the wait continued. The bird had been believed to be feeding in the back gardens of the houses and occasionally coming up to the tops of trees so it could be seen by the birders. So all eyes were on the tops of trees. There were some other birds coming in. We noticed a lovely grey wagtail that landed on one of the house roofs and then flew into one of the trees at the side of us, occasionally singing. This added a lovely bit of colour. And as time continued to go on, we did get a return visit from the great spotted woodpecker. By now it was about 1:30, so about 3¼ hours since I arrived, and still no sign of this rarity. I was getting cold and quite hungry too. Even the birding apps were updating saying this bird hadn't been seen. Regardless, I persisted for now, seeing a lovely bullfinch in one of the trees, and following this I decided to mingle with some of the other birders. There were a few of our subscribers and some friendly familiar faces. We chatted for a bit until somebody finally spotted the elusive tanager. There was a bit of a scramble and people were asking where it was. Somebody said, it's in the bullfinch tree, the tree the bullfinch was in before. And there it was, at a bit of a distance in the top of a silhouetted tree. I have lightened the video a little so you can see the yellow on the bird's body and its black wings. This species breed in eastern North America and winter in Central and South America, so this individual is well out of its range. This is a first winter male bird. The adult males are bright red with black wings. Regardless, it is super rare, with only a few sightings on the British mainland in the past, and the last sighting in the UK being in the Hebrides 10 years ago. Out of the 7 previous accepted records, 4 of them were in the Isles of Scilly, 1 being in the Hebrides and the other 2 being in Cornwall. So having one smack bang in the middle of the country is unprecedented. And although I wished for slightly better views, I cannot complain. I'm genuinely gutted that Kaylee couldn't have come with me to see it, but this is another lifer and another one for our year list. What an absolute mega. It stayed up in the tree showing for the excited birders for about 1.5 minutes and then dropped back into one of the gardens. You could feel the excitement amongst the crowds of birders. The atmosphere was electric. Well, there you go. We got it. I'm shaking. I've been here for like hours, like 4 hours, 5 hours, I don't know, a long time. And got it. It just came up. It was a silhouette in a tree. You could just see the yellowy front on it. But wow, that's a lifer and a new bird for the year list. Wow, what a mega. The following day, after a morning at work, I headed down the Welsh coast to Rhyl, where an unusual duck had been sighted the previous day. There has been an American Wigeon spotted here over previous days. Nothing today yet, but I'm hoping to find it. It's not only any American Wigeon, it's the Storm Wigeon variant, which has got a very, very pale head. It's a mutation of the regular American Wigeon. This bird is almost definitely the same one that was on the Wirral earlier in the year and on Anglesey last year. But although I've seen it before, it's so rare and unusual. With it being so close by, I can't pass up seeing it because it's such an amazing duck. I've just got to try and find it. Nobody's reported it at all today, so I'm a little bit apprehensive, but we'll see what we can do. I headed down the path past the sheep, seeing this lovely grey wagtail feeding amongst them, and headed to the edge of the river. Just arrived and there were two other birders here. They've not seen it yet. There's a large group of Wigeon on the opposite bank, but nothing stands out as the American one. And there's some further up the stream, but they're kind of a bit too far away to get good views. So I'm just walking a little bit upstream just in case. Walking down the path, I did spot this buzzard on a telegraph post. But anyway, let's get back to the American Wigeon. This specific bird's got quite a story. American Wigeons are reasonably rare anyway, with a handful of yearly sightings, but this plumage variation, the Storm Wigeon, is very rare, with this mutation showing in 1 to 500 to 1 to 1,000 of these birds. So the idea of one of these coming to the UK is magical. And this bird first showed up in November last year in Anglesey. It stayed for a while and then showed up earlier this year on the Wirral at Burton Mere wetlands. I was lucky enough to see it both times and get all the footage you've just been seeing. So when it was reported here a couple of days previously, I didn't want to miss it. So I got back to my search. Further up the river there wasn't much, apart from a small number of teal and widgeon roosting, a couple of shelduck and some redshank feeding in the mud. So I headed back to my original spot as more widgeon were flying in from the other end of the river. Scanning through them became a little challenging, as some of them were swimming in the water and then they'd fly up onto the bank to feed, so I had to scan through the lot again. And although I was joined by a few other birders, no one was able to pick out the celebrity Storm Wigeon from this lot. We even scanned some of the birds that were further down towards the railway bridge, but nothing there either. Hey folks, I've been here for a while and no American Wigeon. It's been a couple of days, but I searched through with a few other birders, lots and lots of Wigeon that were up on the bank and in the water as well, but no sign of the American one unfortunately. I'm going to move on now towards Anglesey to Corsdiga or Corsdiga, I can't remember how to pronounce it, but it's a nice reserve, so I'm headed that way to see what's there. Yesterday there was one of my birding nemesises there, the water pipit, although I'm not holding out too much hope for that, but let's see what else is there. Stick with me. After about a 45-minute drive, I arrived at RSPB Corsdiga on Anglesey. It was well into the afternoon and the sun was low. I wandered down the straight path through the middle of the reserve, with flooded fields on one side and marshland on the other. There were loads of ducks present here, so we'll start off with the bird we finished from at the last place, the Wigeon. I think I've seen enough of them today. Other ducks here included shovelers that were feeding in the shallow water, but also one of my favourite ducks, the pintail. Although this species does breed in the UK in very small numbers, mainly we see them in winter. And today these birds were really close, giving me excellent views. As I walked further down the path, I noticed a few little egrets feeding in the reed bed, and finally I did spot a pipit. But unfortunately not the species I was after. This one was a meadow pipit. Never mind. As I got to the canal bridge at the end of the road, I noticed in one of the far fields a couple of herons having a bit of a fight, eventually flying away with one chasing the other. These two were overlooked by another grey heron that was sat in a tree, looking a bit like a disgruntled school teacher. Hey folks, we're slowly losing the light, but I keep forgetting how good this place is for water birds. Like ducks, just had pintail really close, widgeon, shoveler, teal, all sorts of stuff. Big groups of snipe feeding. It's amazing. There's egrets and herons and all sorts. I know I've come in to try and find water pipit, and to be honest, I doubt I'm going to today. But I'm really glad I came, because it is nuts. If you're ever at Anglesey, visit. Honestly, it's brilliant here. Water birds weren't the only birds here. There were a number of quite showy stonechat. As I started losing the sun, I headed back down the path towards the car, stopping abruptly when I saw a bird in a tree. This was an incredible looking male kestrel. This real stunner sat in the tree for a short while and then took off and flew across the wetland in front of me, and everything lifted. I have never seen so many snipe take off at one time. They flew around making a real noise, eventually after a few circuits landing in the reed bed. This was a pretty incredible sight. Not long after that, all the other waders that had been spooked started to land as well, with some black-tailed godwits and hundreds of lapwing and golden plover. Eventually, everything settled, but as the sun was really low, I had to leave. And although again I hadn't seen the water pipit or the Storm Wigeon, it had been a great afternoon. Thanks so much for watching. Please like, please subscribe, and please press the notification bell. We'll see you on the next adventure.